Hello and welcome to the Best Thing from Podcast new style video edition. Obviously, if you're listening to this on audio, just hit skip a couple of times while I explain what's going on. But if you are watching live, hi, you can see me. You can also see Sheepdog and Editor Chris. You two say hello as well.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
There they are. We're experimenting with YouTube's new podcast feature. Basically, you can now put videos that are podcasts in a special podcast feed and have it tucked away on YouTube somewhere. So we figured, let's see how that works. We're doing the podcast attached to the Best Thing From series anyway. It will still go out in the same way as normal on the audio feed, but if you want to be able to see us while we're doing it, then now you can on my YouTube channel. So there's that. And what you can see is because we're all podcasting professionals, we've all put podcasting hats on, because I have noticed when I watch podcasts, they usually do wear hats.
You made me put one on, didn't you? I was going to say, there's two downsides. You said we were trying something new. I thought you were going to reference the hats then. But also, I wanted to say that you have absolutely stitched me up here, because we just did our other podcast, and I spent most of that dealing with stuff on my phone, looking stuff up online, just generally doing my weekly admin that I do while you're talking about games I've never heard of. And I can't do any of that now because we're sat on camera.
No, exactly. It's really good. It also means at any point during the podcast, Chris can do this and just make some video from the episode that we're talking about appear on screen as well, which is really clever and really cool. So if you are new to the Best Thing From podcast because you're on YouTube, this is basically the companion to the Best Thing From videos that we put out once a month. So this is actually the 4th podcast episode. If you want to go back and listen to the first 3, there's a link to that down in the description below. But from now on, assuming this works, they will be in video form. And this is the companion to the video that came out a couple of days ago here on the channel, the Best Thing From Liverpool, where me and Sheepdog headed up to Liverpool probably about a month or so now as we're recording this. It's been a while.
Feels like ages, doesn't it?
It was certainly, I think it's more than a month between us doing it and it actually hitting the YouTube channel. So we're recording this a couple of weeks in advance as well. But we went up to Liverpool. We spent a couple of days there. And now we're going to chat about what we got up to. We go into a little bit more depth on the podcast than we do in the videos and just chat about what the best thing from the great city of Liverpool is. Spoilers, it's not the football team. Just got to get that in early.
I finally found the call sheet. It took me that entire intro to remind myself of what we did.
We are professionals here, boys and girls. Indeed. I promise you, we are professionals. We have a professional call sheet after all.
Which, it's very good.
Yeah, I just got a Google template, and that's what we use for that. But this, so I guess we'll go through the weekend in order and talk about what we got up to. So, I mean, for a start, this is the furthest we've had to travel and then get straight into a video, certainly driving. Obviously, we've had a couple that we've flown to, but even the flights were shorter than the drive
quicker,
to Liverpool.
Yeah, God.
So we got up at the crack of early o'clock. You were with me by like 7:30 in the morning, which means you had to get up early.
I'd sneak around the house and drive out. There was no one about. It was very bizarre driving around with no one on the road.
Because it was a weekend as well. It was a Saturday morning, nobody about, stupid early. But we were that early with a purpose, because the reason we were going to Liverpool was because I was doing a match day vlog for Liverpool's last home match of the season. So we knew that I had to get there for that. That was on the Saturday afternoon. So that was an immovable object on the schedule. I had to watch the football. But one of the other things we like to do when we go to these places is find the local delicacy, eat the local food. And the big thing that kept coming up was Scouse.
Yeah, you wanted to leave early to get lunch. That's what I was.
Yeah, basically, I'm sugarcoating that to make it seem like I'm not a glutton. But
you are.
Scouse is the local food, and I googled where is the best place in Liverpool to get Scouse from, and it said Maggie May's Cafe, and it's not open on Sundays, so we couldn't go on a Sunday, and it closes at 6 o'clock, so I couldn't go after the football. So we had to get to Liverpool early enough to find this cafe so I could have a stew before noon, before I went to the football.
I had a veggie burger with brown sauce, because when she asked me if I wanted ketchup, I just inexplicably said no, and then thought, this is the driest burger I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So while you're tucking into your nice moist stew, I had to have a veggie burger that was just like sharp as anything. And I mean, it was nice, but it was very sharp, and I had to cover it in brown sauce to stop myself from getting hurt. But
I mean, the stew was weird. So Scouse is a lamb stew with chunky root vegetables in, basically, in quite a thick gravy. It's gloopy, and it is really nice. It's a lamb and veg stew, but it's served with your choice of either pickled beetroot or pickled cabbage. So I went pickled cabbage because beetroot is the devil's food, and crusty bread. So she brought my crusty bread, my pickled cabbage, my bowl of stew, and then plonked a bottle of HP sauce down on the table. And I kind of looked at it. I said to Sheepdog at the time, what do I do with the sauce? Yeah, where does the sauce go? The stew is already sauced. It is already wet. It's covered in stew gravy. Am I putting this on the cabbage? Am I just dipping the... So in the end, I just kind of splurged it all over the top and mixed it in a bit. But, you know, when I'm making a stew, I'll put a squirt of sauce in it or some Marmite or something to give it that umami. It feels like I did a step that the chef could have done, putting the sauce in myself, but it was fine. It was nice.
That's probably why she's the best one in Liverpool, because they let you sauce it yourself. They don't make you take the chef's portions of HP sauce in it. You know, they let you just...
Perhaps they're showing off. Look, we've got legit HP sauce. This is a daddy's.
It's not pH sauce.
Yeah, this is proper sauce. They're showing off how fancy their sauce is. But, I mean, it was nice. It was, I think I said at the time on Twitter that of all the local delicacies we've tried so far, I think this is probably the best one. It was better than the pasta in Italy. It was better than, what did we have in Barcelona? The paella and the tapas and stuff.
Yeah, paella and tapas we've had here plenty. And while it was nice there, it's like, well, you've had it. And the same with the... it
was certainly better than the slop in Swansea.
What did we have in Swansea again? I can't even remember.
Mulchy green stuff.
Oh god, yeah, the mulch. Oh god, we licked that off a rock basically. And
the sandy shellfish as well that you didn't get the pleasure of. No, but I got mulch and teeth sand. It was horrible.
I think, yeah, when you're considering it, like the stuff you had in Italy was like mincemeat it was mince and pasta out of a can, basically, wasn't it? They charged
canned ravioli. I will never be convinced otherwise. It was canned ravioli.
Like you get bags of ravioli from Tesco's for £2. You can boil up. I must admit, when they put it down at the time, I remember thinking, yeah, that looks like something that like Mrs. Sheepdog would have made us in 10 minutes, and you know. But this one though, looking at it, I was like, this looks like an Irish stew. This looks like the Irish stew.
I mean, I guess that's probably what it was. I mean, Liverpool's got a big Irish contingent, hasn't it? So I guess.
But what's the difference then? Why was it Scouse?
I don't know. Is an Irish stew lamb? I thought an Irish stew was beef.
I mean, you're more of a cook than I am. I wouldn't have even known what meat I was eating as a kid.
I think an Irish stew is beef and probably Guinness in, whereas. I mean, I've put Guinness in stews loads of times, so I imagine it's beef and Guinness. Whereas Scouse was lamb and no Guinness, I guess. I don't know.
Carlsberg, because they sponsored Liverpool.
If it had been on the menu as stew, I wouldn't have ordered it because who's ordering a stew in a restaurant? But if I'd have just been presented with a stew, I'd have been, that was a nice stew. I wouldn't have immediately thought, my word, this is the most unusual and different stew I've ever experienced. But I mean, it was a nice stew. But it was a stew. I don't know what makes it Scouse, other than the fact talk's funny, I suppose. What makes anything Scouse?
I could have done with them replacing the lamb with some dumplings for me or something. I was really hoping.
Dumplings are not vegetarian either. You know what dumplings are made of, right? Suet is beef fat. If you're eating dumplings,
no, they do vegetarian dumplings.
I mean, that's basically just bread balls.
It's just bread ball dough stuff. That's
proper dumplings are not vegetarian.
Never knew that, to be fair. I hate it when people tell me stuff like this. I don't know when the last time I've even had dumplings are, but telling me that they're not vegetarian is horrid. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me stuff's not vegetarian. It's just a curse.
Okay, you keep eating your dumplings and your jelly babies and all this other stuff.
I don't eat jelly babies. I know they're not vegetarian, but no. Someone said to me that there's Rene in pesto sauce, whatever it is, the green sauce. Is that the right word? Pesto, and that I was gutted because my vegan sandwich that I was getting from this place that was really good and was like the best sandwich I'd had in years ended up turning out to not be vegan at all, and I had to sort of tell the company. I was like, it's not. They didn't care. They still sell it, but
I mean, they're probably using a vegan pesto. That must exist as well. If you can have veggie dumplings, you must be able to have vegan pesto.
It tasted like normal pesto though, so if they can make pesto taste the same without the non-vegan stuff, then why wouldn't you? It just seems like an unnecessary ingredient. But well, I don't know.
This isn't the pesto podcast. We'll deal with that on our pesto podcast.
Yeah.
When we get onto that
Are
one.
we now?
Yeah. So we had the Scouse. We also went to Forbidden Planet, which was next door. I mean, that was the best thing about Maggie Mays. It was down there. What was that? I forget what the street was called. Bold Street? Is that what that street was called? Where they had all of the restaurants from all
Bold
of the
Street
different.
Is what it says on the itinerary that I brought up. That's well remembered.
Yeah. But there was restaurants from, you could basically have any cuisine from anywhere in the world from these restaurants down Bold Street, and Forbidden Planet.
Though.
And lots. Well, they had ice creams. What else do they eat in Antarctica?
I mean, they don't eat ice cream.
I bet they do.
I looked for penguin as well, just to give them a chance, but no.
I bet they have penguins.
Octopus maybe.
When we do the best one from Antarctica, we'll figure that out.
I'd love that. We should do that next.
We will do, well, maybe not next. We're going to Cambridge next. We need a cheap one. This series has cost me a fortune. We're doing one that's just down the road. Please and thank you.
You have to get your wisdom teeth removed to go to Antarctica, apparently. So we'll have to prep that one properly.
You also have to have your appendix out as well, I think. Wisdom teeth and appendix have to be taken out.
Basically,
anything that could go wrong and need... Yeah. It's the same as when you go to space. You can't be an astronaut if you've got an appendix.
Wow.
NASA facts.
Okay.
Yeah, we know everything. We're fountains of knowledge.
Exactly. I know nothing. So this is.
Oh, now you know those two
Yes.
things. You can't go to Antarctica with teeth, and you can't go to space with an appendix. You're welcome.
Information
We're educating you.
Thank you.
But yeah, this street was really cool. I think we probably could have walked up and down this. We could have spent a week there, walked up and down the street, and had something different every day. There was so much stuff there.
I did go up and down it a lot because obviously after you'd eaten your Scouse, you were like, well, I've got a ticket to the Liverpool game, so I'll see you later. And off you went. And I vowed I was going to find a hat and a bag. You did give me a good lecture.
I would like to point out, I mean, he didn't want to come to the football. I feel like I need to get that out there now. I wasn't being a scumbag.
No, I did paint him like a monster there. I apologise. I was doing it on purpose, but I meant to clarify. He said to me, the footballs, it was very expensive, wasn't it? And I said to you, well, I don't really want to go. I'm not really keen on either team. So I'm happy to forego it. And you were like, well, thank God, because I didn't really want to buy you a ticket because of how much it was. And I was like, yeah, well, then we agreed. So I escorted you as far as I was willing to walk. It cost
more than the Barcelona tickets did.
Oh, wow.
It was mad expensive.
God. It was the hottest day ever as well, wasn't it? I said, I'll walk with you for a bit and then I'll wander back. And we walked for like 10 minutes.
April? Was it April or early May?
20th.
Was it really? I thought it was much felt longer ago than that.
I'm trusting your itinerary here if you've written
I believe you. I'm always right, so it must be.
But I wandered with you. I remember, so basically I planned to walk with you for a bit, and then I was going to go hat shopping and bag shopping and to try and find Moose Coffee, the coffee of Liverpool, and just generally have an adventure of my own. But I found myself straight back on that street that we'd literally just left with the Scouse on it, and I went in every clothes shop. They had every single shop on there was like, we've thrifted some clothes and we've just bought this place and we're flogging all these clothes that are not even secondhand, they're just found them, and it was all that sort of stuff. So everyone in there was like trying to find something really sort of special and different and edgy and whatever, but none of it was suitable for someone like me. I'm walking around there thinking I'm so out of place. There's all these like young hipster people in there. It was very cool music, very cool styles. Like I just would, if you'd have come back and I'd have been dressed out of any of those shops, you'd have been like, what on earth have you done? Like, what is wrong with you? What have you done to yourself? You'd have thought I was having a midlife crisis.
Imagining I noticed what he's wearing.
Well, you would have noticed if I'd bought stuff from these shops. But it was so hot. I ended up finding an indoor place. I think I filmed a clip of myself and then deleted it. I don't know if I sent them all to Chris. I don't think they're really going to be relevant because one of the ones I filmed was just me chatting about how I'm going to go buy a hat. But when I looked at it back, I was just drenched. I was like someone had just poured a bottle of water over my head. I was so wet. So I went indoors.
This is why people need to watch the podcast as well as the actual video, because as far as the main video is concerned, all you did for this 5-hour period was sit in a coffee shop with everything else has been dumped off, and it's literally just a picture of your coffee, and that's it. So yeah, all that stuff you've sent to Chris, I'm sure we're seeing it all now. But
no, I mean, I said it must have been like 50. I mean, I said to you on the way back, oh yeah, I've been filming loads, and then when I sent it across, it was like, I want to say 25 seconds maybe of content, if that. Like, I panned across the coffee shop, I filmed the cup, I did have a clip of me going, I'm going to go for hat shopping, and then I googled hat shops, and every shop I ended up going to was just like a shop that sold balaclavas. I was like, what? A shop that sold bags, but they are all sparkly bags for women, and then another shop that was for teenage girls. And I was just like, I kept just filming the names of them and being like, that sells cowboy hats for Hindus. Like, that's not the one I want.
Yeah, I can't imagine why this stuff didn't make it into the video.
No, well, yeah, exactly. It was pointless, but I ended up going. You said to me, go in that retro shop we'd seen or whatever it's called. Some sort of.
It was a vintage shop, big vintage shop.
And I did have a wander around there. I saw a hat not too dissimilar to this one, except it was like third hand and wasn't in the right size. I tried to put it on. Thought, this is grim. It was too small anyway, so left it, sorted through one of their boxes of hats until I picked one up that was literally covered in scum, like it was disgusting, like it had been found at the bottom of it.
I don't think I'd ever want a second-hand hat.
No. Yeah, no. Well, I didn't know they were second-hand at first. I thought they were just vintage, as in they're from the past because they're like
Someone's
that style.
Kept them in a box for many years.
Like this is made in the because this is the San Diego.
What, you thought they were fake vintage?
Yeah, like I thought they were retro styled or like that sort of thing.
That makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, I just went to a retro shop. So when I was going through this box, I picked up this hat that was just literally, and it looked like someone had spilled a can. It looked like someone had spilled a can of drink in there. That someone had spilled something else in there. Maybe wiped their backside in there. And I just thought, this ain't the shop for me. So then I went to a shop down the road that had brand new hats, but they were all like 80 quid. I was just like, no, I'll go on the internet. So I started looking for Moose coffee, but I walked around in circles for ages trying to find Moose coffee. You told me that it was like the Liverpool coffee, and apparently there was 4 of them, and they seemed to be like a square. And every time I went towards one, I ended up in the middle again somehow, and I don't know what was going on. But I ended up settling on.
Perhaps I just searched for what's the hardest place to find on foot in the centre of Liverpool and told you to look for that. Yeah.
But what was the shopping centre called? Because we went to look at
Liverpool
that.
1.
Yeah, we thought that was going to be this impressive mall.
We thought it was going to be a shopping centre, and it's absolutely not. It's just all outside.
High street. Just a normal bog standard high street.
It's the high street without the street. So it's like a big pedestrian area with loads of shops and it's not even the good shops. The good shops are out on the real high street.
There was nothing special there that I could find. Like,
there was a cinema.
I know, but I mean special. Sorry, by special I mean different. Like the shops I talked about before on that Bold Street were different.
It was a fancy dress shop.
It was a fancy dress shop, yeah. But it was all like...
It reminds me of the Lanes, what you're explaining, which is in Brighton, which is all like this quirky independent
but the Lanes,
shops.
Yeah, the Lanes is little independent shops, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas this
that's what you want to see, indies, definitely.
This was like... I don't know. It had a big JD Sports.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Then.
So I went into big JD Sports trying to find a hat in there, but the music was so loud. I left. I felt like a massive old man, but I left the shop because I just couldn't cope with the music. It was just awful. I couldn't believe. I was like, bloody hell. And then because I was feeling a little bit like, okay, this is ridiculous, that's when I found the coffee place that I panned across. Hopefully Chris can show whatever that was called. And I did literally sit in there for 4 hours in the end. I think by this point I was a little bit offended because while I was walking to JD Sports, this man just stopped me in the street and said something. And it was really hot. I'd been wandering around shops. I was sweating like mad. And I think I was just a bit like, I can't think straight. And this guy just started talking at me and I was like, what? And he went, I said, do you work out? You look really buff. And I just thought, you little, like, swear word, just sort of waved my hand at him dismissively and walked off thinking, I was just really annoyed. I was like, how dare him? Because I just assumed he was being rude. He might have been absolutely polite. No. He was definitely being rude.
How thick were his glasses?
He was really young. He was weird. He was a young guy, but he had like a
young guy, white stick.
He had a top with a hole in the middle of it, which I thought was really odd. It was like a normal top, but the middle of it had been taken out, so it was showing a little bit of his chest. And I was like, is that the style these days? I don't know.
Yes, that is the style. Yeah, you should get one.
I'll cut a hole here, shall I? I don't think it was like a heart shape, but it might as well have been. It was like almost a sort of heart shape. Anyway, he said that, and I just walked away thinking, you absolute swine. A friend of mine told me apparently people in the north are like that to fat people. They just rip the heck out of them in the street. I was messaged them going, this guy just said this to me. Why did he have to do that?
This is why I don't go to the north. I can't cope with this.
And she just said, yeah, they do that to fat people all the time up here. And I mean, I thought, A, how dare you? But then I was like, B, no, you're right. So I went to this coffee place, just kind of licking my wounds then. I was like, I've failed to find a hat, even though I discovered the San Diego Padres, and I just thought that's the hat for me. I'll figure that out. I sat there
Padres fan.
Music. Yeah, big Padres fan.
Padres fan.
Massive
for weeks
Padres
now.
Fan. Yep. And the coffee place was great, though. It had like this massive upstairs lounge that I sat on a sofa for a bit, chilling out. There's loads of people in there tapping away doing work, which on a Saturday, I don't know what work, writing stuff, whatever. It's very chilled. The coffee was amazing. They brew it in there. They roast it in there, whatever. I don't really know what that means. Like they're getting the beans in, then cooking them. I don't know. But it was all roasted in Liverpool, made in Liverpool. Rah, rah, rah. It was absolutely great. I like being at places and discovering something that I've not had before that tasted that good. It tasted really good like the one in Barcelona, but since we've been there, I'm now no longer allowed to drink coffee, and I'm gutted because now I know that there's two types of coffee I really like and I can't have it anymore, which sucks. So yeah, that was what was it? It was 6 hours in the end, I think, in total. 2 hours wandering, 4 hours
I headed
sitting.
off down to Anfield at like 1 o'clock, I think, and it was probably about 6 o'clock that we checked into the hotel. So it was about a good 5 hours. I mean, you didn't. I don't even know if we talked about this after we met up again afterwards, but a good hour and a half of my time at Anfield was panicking that I wasn't going to be able to get in because the guy that I was meeting up for the tickets
just didn't come.
He did eventually, and obviously to him it was no big deal. He just turned up at like 20 to 3.
Yeah, kickoff.
That's fine. I got there at 1:15. Wandered around outside, filmed a bit of B-roll. Went around the club shop, which was awesome. It was a really cool club shop. It was launch day for the new kit. They had loads of memorabilia stuff upstairs in the club shop as well. It was a big one in the same style as the one that I'd seen at Spurs and Barcelona. Not a poxy little one like I had to go to in Switzerland or in Preston. It was a good club shop. But I was done well before 2 o'clock, and it was a hot sunny day, and I was just baking in the sun. I'd just got back from Tenerife, and I got more sunburn in Liverpool waiting to go into Anfield than I did in 2 weeks in Tenerife.
I was very sunburned as well. It took me a good 2 weeks to recover from the sunburn from that, I think. I had like proper... I was burned.
Should have got a hat.
Yeah, I tried. I mean, I went indoors a lot. I was like jumping from shadow to shadow at one point, like a vampire man. I was so out of it that it wasn't until I watched something you sent back. There was a guy playing music. No, we stopped to see a guy playing music in the street with Muppets, didn't we?
We did.
I walked past that like 3 times and didn't even realise there were Muppets there until I saw it with you. I was like, what on earth? How out of it was I? It was around there that the guy was rude to me, and I had decided to go hide in the coffee place because I was just out of it. But when I saw him with the puppets, I was like, I really didn't process that yesterday. It was just completely
He might be the best thing from Liverpool, though, because he was awesome. He was a street performer. I have got a clip, so I don't know if I've given it to Chris, but I'll get it to him now so you can see it. It's he's a street performer who is he's got a load of puppets next to him that are singing and playing instruments on their own. And I am a man who owns several puppets, and mine aren't that well behaved. So
you could start a band, though.
I've tried. They're unruly, my puppets, but I would love to get to the point in my puppetry career where I could basically form a band with my puppets.
I once went to an event in, I think it was Austria, with work, and they had a puppet rock band that was up there at the front, just all rocking out on guitars. It was really surreal, but it was good. It was very cool. I stood at the front, just listened to them sing songs. It was, impressive. So you could get to that level. There's obviously a market there.
Absolutely. So just ticking a couple of bits off. The football, if you want to know about that, there's a matchday vlog on the main channel. Go watch that. Not going to dwell on that too much here. They are as loud as people make out they are. Bearing in mind, it was a 1-1 draw against Aston Villa. They were still proper loud. It was Roberto Firmino and James Milner's last games for the club. They got big standing ovations and stuff as well. They were chanting the Bobby Firmino song throughout the second half. And he scored the equaliser as well. And the build up to that moment, it was a really great football moment, even though it was a 1-1 draw. But because they'd been adoringly singing his name for 2 hours and everyone knew it was his last game, and then he came off the bench for like 20 minutes to go and then scored the equaliser. There are few times I have heard the roof go off a place the way it did when he scored. Oh my word. I'm getting goosebumpy now remembering how mental it got. And I'm not a Liverpool fan. It was impressive.
I don't think the camera did justice to how loud it was.
It can only go so loud.
Yeah, exactly. It sounded incredible in there, and it's one of the few times I've been jealous watching, put it that way.
It was louder than anything at Barcelona. It was louder than those crazy ultras that were in Switzerland. It was the only comparable moment I've got, which is on a completely different level anyway, but Sheepdog was there with me, was Old Trafford when Posh won the playoffs. And we had that 7 minutes of absolute nonsense where we were falling over each other, but that was because we were all so into it because it was our team.
We were convinced you were going to get battered. It was you were going there. We went all the way out to Old Trafford for this game. Huddersfield had bought out the entire stadium and put like T-shirts on every seat and put flags and all sorts. And Peterborough had basically gone like with one flag, going and so we just assumed we were going to get spanked, and then we won 3-0. Like, it was ridiculous. It was so good. But
that meant so much. Whereas this was a 1-1 draw against Aston Villa, and those moments were comparable. So Liverpool is a pretty special atmosphere.
I'm glad to hear that, because it's one of those things that I think I said to you beforehand. It's something that I wanted to know whether it was true or a myth, because I've only ever heard like Sky or Jamie Carragher say it, and you're like, are you just being friendly to the clubs you like, or are you legitimately? I'm not trying to say that I thought they were lying, but I wanted to know. I said to you, is this a legitimate thing? You'll tell me the truth on it, sort of thing. And so it's good to know, because
I get why. I get why on the Arsenal documentary they were blasting "You'll Never Walk Alone" out in training, just to try and make the players like neutral to it, because it was.
That's still mental. I'm sorry.
That is absolutely mental, but I get why it was treated differently to going anywhere else, because I've never been anywhere. I've been to, I mean, we counted up on stream, I've been to like 45 different football stadiums now, and none of them compared to the atmosphere that Liverpool were able to generate in a boring 1-1 draw when they ended up not qualifying for the Champions League that day. And it was still an incredible atmosphere. So, big thumbs up to that. We're not making that the best thing from Liverpool, because not having it. And also we already did it with Barcelona, and we can't make it the football team every time. But we eventually did meet up with Sheepdog again. We got set up in the hotel. There is a video about the hotel on the channel as well, because it was a hotel that thinks it's a cruise ship, which is still mental.
It was bizarre, wasn't it? Like,
it was absolutely. It was a mad hotel, and I still can't believe how much I paid for it, which it was nearly as much as the tickets for the Liverpool match. And it was, bearing in mind, there was 4 weekends in May. 2 of them were bank holidays. One of them was Eurovision in Liverpool, and we went on the 4th one, and it was still the most expensive hotel I've stayed in this year. It was ridiculous.
Did you pick it, or did because I know the other ones is football tours.
I picked it, and it wasn't more expensive than other options. It wasn't It wasn't that I saw a gimmick hotel and thought, I don't care the price, I'm booking this. It was, they're all like, I think it was like 200 and something odd pounds for the night. They're all that kind of range.
I assume
I may as well do the gimmick one.
I assume you'd like,
I don't understand why it was so expensive.
It's more than London, wasn't it? Then?
Yeah. That's what I mean. More than London, more than on a per night basis, more than I paid to go to Tenerife, more than Barcelona, more than Turin, more than Geneva. Switzerland is a ridiculously expensive
where
country.
they keep the money.
Geneva is a crazy expensive city within a crazy expensive country. And we stayed in a nice hotel in Switzerland, much better than this one in Liverpool. And even that was cheaper. I don't understand.
Yeah.
And the beds were very thin, and I mean, it was a fine hotel, but the bed was very wobbly.
We had a lovely view of the roof, didn't we, from our window as well, which was
the
very
beds
nice.
were like narrow, and if you leant sideways, you rolled. Carry on going.
Oh, lovely.
Did you fall out at one point, or am I imagining?
Yeah,
that?
a little bit.
Yeah,
not all the way, but a little bit. And then we went out to the Albert Dock and the Waterfront because we were led to believe this is the place to go for dinner and nightlife, and not wanting to get too ahead of myself, I think we went to the wrong place because there wasn't many places to eat. Yeah, we had a Pizza Express after not really being able to find anything else. There was cool stuff there. We had our pictures taken with the Beatles statues. We walked along the waterfront, saw the ferries, and there was saw where the cruise ships dock, and we saw a massive earth that was just sat in the dock for an art installation.
There was a few things like that, wasn't there? There was a big stack of rainbow blocks or something.
Yeah, like a rainbow Stonehenge.
Yeah, I kept thinking that looks like I could just push that over. I think
it was polystyrene. I don't think it was rock.
Yeah,
it didn't look very solid.
You just think to yourself, if I went and pushed that now, that'd be gone. And then you're like, I don't want to do it. I got to stay away from it because I just find myself going, oh no.
You should have done it.
And it was a nice area, but I mean, for actual. Well, so stuff to do, restaurants and bars and stuff. I would say there was more at the Waterfront in Lincoln than the one in Liverpool. It's ridiculous.
I didn't plan on doing this when I got it up, but I could read on your itinerary that you planned to like film it with the drone and walk around it and have seafood. And you were saying I was probably going to have to make do while you had seafood from the
and it wasn't. This is what my research was telling me was there, and it just wasn't.
No. There was cafes there that weren't open at this point because it was nighttime. There were restaurants there was a lot of bars, wasn't there? So we read a few menus where it wasn't clear whether they were like super expensive snazzy bars, and we just thought loud music's pumping out of it, it's going doof doof doof, and there's people all dressed up for the night, and we're there in sort of t-shirts and jeans. But we're never gonna go to a Best Thing From thing and go to a bar where you spend £400 on a meal, are we? You know, it's not the kind of scene that you want to go to. We were trying to find a place that did something special or whatever, but we ended up in Pizza Express, which was fine. The lady in there was lovely. She I think she thought we were two old men, married couple on a date, because Kev kept chastising me for taking too long with the orders, and she just was giggling her head off. Because she'd come over like, "What do you want?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I haven't read the drinks bit. I've been looking at the meals." And then when she came over for the meals, I was like, "I have no idea because I spent too long." And he just kept laying into me in a just sort of jokey way, and she was enjoying that. I think she was very entertained by our back and forth. But it occurred to me midway through that she definitely thought it was my husband, and that was the reason we were getting those sympathy laughs and everything.
I mean, we did keep holding hands as well. To keep warm.
No, we did. We definitely did. But I mean, as far as Pizza Expresses go, it was a fine one. We ate outside. There was a
We're
hen
not
do.
Reviewing the Pizza Express.
There was a
on.
hen do in there. Did you not notice that? That's something I've never seen before.
I was so hungry I could barely see.
I thought it was noteworthy that somehow this was enough of a Pizza Express highlight place that people booked. They went there to make pizzas on their hen do. They were dressed in.
There was a big wheel right next to it as well. Yeah. I set up a camera for a time lapse while this was going on. I'll do a time lapse of the sun going down and the big wheel and everything. It was on the 360 camera. It was absolute bobbins. The sun never went down. The wheel neeyver moved. It's basically a side-on view, quite zoomed out, of me and him eating pizzas.
I'm putting that in.
It didn't make it into the main video. It was supposed to. In my head at the time, it was, this will be a perfect transition from day one to day two. We'll have the sun setting while we're eating pizzas, the wheel turning nicely. And sometimes shots don't work out, and this one definitely didn't work out.
We ate too quick, or was that? Now.
I think it was just because I didn't put the camera where my eyes were, and from where my eyes were, it looked great. From where I put the camera, it didn't.
You just stick it on the front of your hat, just have a little camera there.
I should have just, I don't know. I was just hungry and rushed, and it's just a bad shot. So, we didn't have a pretty transition to take us from day one to day two, but We did head back to the hotel relatively early because we had an early start the next day. We had a lot booked for the next day. Sunday was Beatles Day. We had
that was good.
We had the Beatles Story Museum, which was back at the Albert Dock again. We had that booked for 9 a.m. on Sunday morning. We had the Magical Mystery Tour booked. We knew we were going to head to the Cavern Club. It was full on Beatles. So the Beatles Story we went to first up on Sunday morning. We were in there a good hour or so. This is where I bought my ukulele. There was so much in there that we actually took the bulk of this out of the Best Thing From video, and there'll be a separate Beatles Story video that will either already be out on the channel or will be coming out on the channel soon, because we just filmed so much in there that there was no way to condense it down properly into and do it justice in the video, because there was so much in there.
Can I want to admit at this point that, I mean, I'm a big Beatles fan in that I know loads of their songs. I went through various phases in life where I listened to them for weeks on end, and I had Beatles rock band, really into it. But I really, in my heart of hearts, was a bit like, this is going to be cringe. We're going to walk into this museum and I'm going to think, okay, like I'm liking it too. I once went to a Bon Jovi concert and everyone there was super into it, and I was just like, and I felt like it was going to be like that. I felt like everyone there was going to be like a Beatlemaniac, and I was going to be this fish out of water that felt awkward. And I kept telling Kev how naughty I was going to be in there. Like, I did misbehave a little bit, but I was just like, this is going to be the reverse kind of museum where I'm going to be the one who's getting us. But then actually, when I went in, I really enjoyed it. It was great. And I went, every part of it was fantastic. And I'd recommend it, definitely. Like, it's not for fanatics.
It was absolutely chock full of American tourists at 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Yeah. It was me, Sheepdog, and loads of American tourists.
America, en masse.
Yeah, the whole of America was there at 9 a.m. on a Sunday. But it was just really cool. We got to go on the yellow submarine and play with all the dials.
You sunk it, didn't you? Yeah,
I did. I mean, there was a bit that I don't think we were supposed to open, that I don't think was part of the exhibit, where I just basically opened up the fuse box.
Yeah, he just yanks open. I was like, Kev, that was a key box, and you've just broken the whole lot. And we just pushed it shut.
It was next to all the knobs we were supposed to twiddle.
It's so funny watching him do that and then just go crook, crook.
They had the Magical Mystery Tour bus in there. They had a little mock-up of Abbey Road in there. They had the White Room and piano. The Imagine video was filmed in.
In hindsight, they definitely glazed over the amount of drugs these fellas took. Like,
there was one room that was basically a drug trip. It was just wavy.
Like, there was no mention like, oh yeah, this was their era when they discovered this drug and that drug, and I kept thinking
that's probably not the theme they want to push in this family tourist attraction.
But it's one of those things where you think they just definitely went to places and did things.
I think it's implied when it comes to that sort of thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was definitely. I mean, yeah, if you knew, you knew, and you could see it. One thing we didn't mention on our way in was that the guys. So when you give them your tickets and that, they said, "Oh, would you like one of these things you put on your ears and you listen to this?" Like, it wasn't a tape recorder; it was like a machine, a bit like when you go to.
It's an audio guide tour.
Yeah, that's it. Audio guide. I couldn't think of the words, and we both just went like, "No, I'm all right, thanks." And the guy was like, "Oh, okay." It's part of the tour, and we're like, "No, we're all right, we'll be fine." But you could read the stuff on your walk around, couldn't you? It was fine. It
did mean we kept overtaking the people who'd got in before us. Bearing in mind, we were there dead on 9 o'clock. It opened at 9 o'clock. There were so many people. Every time we raced past someone else to another section, there were people in the section in front of us. So I don't know what time they really open. These American tourists are very keen and were clearly queuing up outside from like 8 o'clock. But I don't think we needed the audio tour thing. I think we were fine without it. I didn't want to wear their skanky old headphones. Same as the second-hand hat. I don't want second-hand headphones either.
No. But I feel like we learned a lot. So from that and from the tour, I still can't get my head around how normal it all seemed. Oh yeah, we just I already know, like from having friends who did bands, that you just do a band, you go to a local pub, you play there for a bit, and then you try and get bigger and bigger. Yeah, and that was their story. And it was like, oh yeah, here's the place they played for a bit. Oh, here's the people they were friends with that they met. And I'm there thinking like, well, I just thought there'd be something like, oh, and then here's the bit where the gazillionaire just popped up and went, oh, here's a load of or they won the lottery or whatever. But no, it was just like, oh yeah, no, they kept going. It was all a very normal, down to earth, completely, feasible, realistic, normal story. And you're like,
We've
wow.
been banging this podcast drum for longer than they were banging the band drum.
But even that, like they talked about how they just met in like a hall, like Paul McCartney and John Lennon met in a hall while John Lennon was doing stuff with his band and Paul McCartney was just chatting. It's like, God, you know, like you just don't know, do you? It's weird. It's funny how these things occur. But yeah, it was really nice hearing all of that. And then we did, was it straight after? Oh no, there's more to it. I was going to go to the mystery tour, but there's more to this. You went in the shop at the end.
Well,
got your ukulele.
I purchased this, which cost me £45 on the day. And then another £40 a few days later because I was streaming and we established it wasn't tuned. So someone told me how to download a guitar tuner app for my phone, which I downloaded on a 7-day trial and said, make sure you tell me to cancel it after the trial. I didn't. So I know now how I can now tune this whenever I want for the next year because it cost me another £40. I think it's tuned.
I told you at the time that I had a ukulele tuning app, literally as you were buying it. I mean, I don't know if it's still installed on my phone. It probably isn't. But literally when you bought it, my mum got a ukulele for Christmas a few years back and I spent like Christmas Day tuning it on my phone and she's played it like once. But I could have literally tuned it for you.
Maybe me and your mum can form a band.
What, like a ukulele off?
Yeah, we'll just be the ukulele people. Topher's got a banjo as well, so he's going to take up banjo.
I've got bass.
Yeah. You're going to get a banjo, though, to join our band. I'm not having a bass player. We're going to be a cool band that only has cool people in. So no bass. No bass, no drums. Just ukuleles, banjos.
If you want, I'll learn it.
Yeah, I will do.
Can I play the maracas then?
I would expect nothing less from you. And then there'll be a bus tour around our houses. Showing about where we wrote all our really good ukulele and banjo songs.
Oh, God. I want him to stand outside my childhood home and be like, he sat out there writing maracas solos.
We did have, there was another thing that I bought from the shop as well.
Did you cure Anna's dyslexia with those John Lennon glasses like I told you
she
to?
won't wear them. I did buy them for her, but she won't wear them.
That's a £5 wasted.
Damn.
I got some stickers. They were on the floor. I got a patch for a hat. I can't find it now. I've lost it. I got a patch like this patch.
I was going to say, was that a Spider-Man one?
No, it was an Apple Records one, and Anna's going to sew it onto my hat for me, but I've now lost it. So, brilliant. I'm tidying my office tomorrow. It'll turn up. Next podcast, I'll be wearing my Apple Records hat. But we did have a moment of panic when we left the museum because we had the Magical Mystery Tour next, which is a 2-hour bus tour. And I realised I hadn't taken any travel sickness tablets, and I do suffer a smidgen with travel sickness. And it was 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. The local Boots didn't open till 11. And we thought, and that was when our tour left, and we thought that we were going to have to go on the Magical Mystery Tour for 2 hours, sat next to each other on a rammed full bus with me vomiting all over Sheepdog constantly.
Yum.
Luckily, we found some travel sickness pills in my glove box, which I don't know how long they'd been there, but they did the trick.
They're probably out of date.
Yeah, they did the trick. The placebo effect was strong with them. So we popped a couple of them and went and sat and we just sat around and had a coffee and waited, didn't we? We realised we didn't need to be in the museum quite as early as we were. We just hung around in the Albert Dock, and for an area that we said there's nothing to do, we spent a lot of time just hanging out in the Albert Dock. But then we got on the Magical Mystery Tour, which is the actual, the bus is, as you would imagine, painted exactly how it should be painted for the Magical Mystery Tour bus. And this tour was fantastic.
So fun.
I didn't have particularly high hopes for the tour. I thought we've got to do it because of what it's called. Mm-hmm. We can't go there and not do it. But how good can a bus tour be? And the guy who was the tour guide, I can't remember his name. He told us his name and we had to find him on Instagram. He was so good. It was such a good tour.
Outrageously knowledgeable, really good at joking, really. I mean, he's obviously done it a lot, very experienced. He said himself getting paid to just tell people about the Beatles all day. It's a dream job for him. It was, he really, because again, I just thought it was going to be cringe. Even though I'd enjoyed the museum, I just thought this is where it's going to get really bad because only the diehards are going to be on this bus. And I'm just, when they asked who's your favourite Beatle and stuff, I wasn't putting my hand up for any of that. I don't guess we're probably the only ones who didn't go on and pick one.
We were the ones who weren't the American tourists again. Yeah. We were the only English people on the bus, I think.
I do feel bad that I pretty much did Ringo Ringo dirty by not putting my hand up. I've always loved Ringo from Thomas the Tank Engine, and just his voice in general and his general attitude. I think he's a brilliant man. And when no one put their hand up, or maybe like one or two, he was like, because it started with Ringo Street and stuff, didn't it? So it was like he asked it then, because he knew no one was going to do it, and it was his speech was about, oh, it's a real shame that no one likes him because, and I'm sat there thinking, I've betrayed him. This is how Jesus Christ felt before he was
exactly how he felt. Yes.
Yeah. Done him dirty. If Ringo, if you're listening, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we went past Ringo's childhood home, which had a massive mural painted on it. We went to Penny Lane and got to have our pictures taken with a Penny Lane sign, one covered in graffiti, one not. With the graffiti on it, I again, this is one of those things where I'm making up the memory. One of us nudged the other one and said, "Are they real signatures?" And I don't remember which one nudged it. And the one who got nudged was like, "No, of course they're not." But I don't remember which way round that happened. So one of us is an idiot, and I don't remember which one of us was the idiot.
I think we both thought they were signatures, and then the man said it was graffiti, and they had to get rid of it or something. Because
that sounds like Sheepdog nudged me, and I thought he was an idiot from the go.
No, I'm pretty sure we did. I'm now thinking we probably did. I remember the man announcing that they took the sign down. There was only one original sign still there. What I found funny about that was we stood at Penny Lane and got our photographs with them and all of this. And then he mentioned it was graffitied. And then he mentioned that the original Penny Lane one, well, apparently they got stolen all the time back in the past when it was Beatlemania and everything. And it got to the point where they painted it on the wall rather than making it a sign. And then they covered that in glass, and that was the only one still left from back then. And I was like, well, take us to that one.
That one's not very good to photo, though. It's all faded. I wanted a nice clear photo so I could stick on Instagram.
We only drove past the faded one, didn't we? I don't think they took us to the faded one. And I was a bit like, that's a shame. But it's probably worth mentioning for Chris's benefit at this point, because I know he's probably wondering what I was like for this trip. This was the main part where I hammered Pokemon Go, because we were on a bus that was driving slowly to loads of landmarks. Every single landmark was a gym.
Let me stop you there, Sheepdog. Chris, were you wondering how he was playing Pokemon Go or not? I don't think you were.
No, I was being jokey. That was a half joke. No, he always nudges me when there's clips he's been editing, and I'm just in the background like
it's all constantly.
But I tried hard on this one to not be like that, and then we were on a coach where I was like, God, when I look into the distance there, every gym was yellow for some reason. I would have expected them to be red, but I knew where the stuff we were going to stop at was, because it was always going to be a landmark, so it's quite handy to follow that. But like John Lennon's home, what's his name's home, everyone's homes and places and so forth.
His name.
Paul McCartney, I was trying to say, but I was
they're all
my brain
quite
was
famous.
not giving it to me. I was trying to say Paul McCartney, but M first, and I was getting confused. But I had stops on my phone for ages. I've been like, I don't want to send them to him. I don't want to waste them on someone who's not going to appreciate that this is Paul McCartney's childhood home. But standing outside his front garden was interesting and stuff like that, wasn't it?
You tried to break into his house. Everyone else was standing back behind the fence, and Sheepdog went right up to the gate and tried to get in.
Well, I didn't go up to the gate to try and get in. What I did was I thought to myself, there's a massive gap there that no one's standing in where you can see more of the garden.
The gap in the hedge where his gate is.
Yeah, but there was like a big, you could have fitted 3 or 4 people in that gap to be closer to the house. So while I was standing in that gap, having a good look through all the stuff that you could see, I thought to myself, this is mad. He was telling us a story about how Paul McCartney would get ready upstairs, come down, open the gate and go off down the road. And I thought, Paul McCartney's touched this gate. I was like, right. So I'm moving the gate thinking, right, I've done Paul McCartney's gate now. I'm walking up the road that he's telling us Paul McCartney's walked up to the bus stop that our bus was parked at, and I'm getting on a bus. I've basically just done a route that Paul McCartney has walked in his life.
You did the... whatever the song is, mind's gone blank.
Yeah, same here.
Woke up, got out of bed, got the car. That song, basically, that's the street that he walked down.
But that's what I was thinking. I wondered to myself, how's nobody else even remotely thought there's the gate?
I mean, it's probably a different gate. It was 50 years ago.
I refuse to accept that it's a different gate.
We also went to Strawberry Field. We got our pictures taken at Strawberry Field as well.
Which I was convinced was a cemetery. Someone told me that was a cemetery years ago, and then it turned out to be an orphanage, which is completely different. We passed Eleanor Rigby's grave, which we found out
we did.
They didn't know there was a grave there with her name on it. That was a weird story. They said that Paul McCartney... It's got to
be nonsense, doesn't it? It's got to be in the head somewhere.
Well, they said Paul McCartney wrote it. everyone was like, Eleanor Rigby's grave is like opposite where you met John Lennon. It's like 4 rows back. And they said, don't go in there. You can't go in there on the tour, blah, blah, blah. But Paul McCartney apparently swears he did not know this grave was there. He'd met them. He never knew the family. He never went in the graveyard or anything like that. And it's like, that's just bizarre. Like you say, it must be, he thinks he must have just been aware of it. Or it might have been that he saw an article in the paper that just one day and he's forgotten. He saw, that might be where the story started. Oh, Rigby, he might have just read the start of a obituary and whatever. But it was just uncanny that it's literally opposite the building they met in. And he's adamant he's never been there, he's never seen it, he had no relation to her with the song, but he even describes her apparently accurately in the song they were saying, which just felt, I don't know, when they were explaining that, like you said just then, I was like, that can't be real, but it sounds mad. I enjoyed that.
Man took too many drugs, he's just forgotten.
Just
he probably used to go out with her. She's his ex.
Yeah. The Rigby family are all like, we've got all these photos of you and her together.
Yeah, exactly. And then after the Magical Mystery Tour, it was run by the people, the tour was run by the people who also run the Cavern Club. So it drops you off right near the Cavern Club, and we got free entry to the Cavern Club as part of our Magical Mystery Tour tickets as well. So we headed round the corner to where the Cavern Club is, and this whole street is like, and I've got to stop comparing places to Disneyland because I did it with Barcelona as well, but this street was Beatles Disneyland because we had the Cavern Club, no, the Cavern Pub, the Cavern Club restaurant, and the Cavern Club, plus loads of statues of like Cilla Black and various Beatles, the Wall of Fame of all the bands that have played down in these pubs down this street. That was
cool to see.
Beatles gift shops and things. It was like you'd walk down this little side alley and it was just all Beatles everywhere, culminating in the Cavern Club, which is like 8 flights of stairs underground. And then, but when you get down there, it's both massive and very, very loud. So we weren't able to use much of, or any of the audio from this in the video because it's just constant Beatles music playing. There was 2 or 3 live performers down there doing Beatles set lists.
Well,
where
they
there was a, yeah.
Were they doing set lists? There was a guy that was setting up, and I thought it was just a sound man, and then he started doing a set. And it was like, oh, okay. But then there was a lady that was singing like Monkeys songs and stuff like that. She didn't sing any Beatles. She
did a couple of Beatles ones, and then did a couple of others as well. I think that were similar. I was
going to ask you whether. Do you think they're all part of the tour that they're there? Because I was thinking to myself, why are they're here Sunday morning, they're doing gigs in there.
I imagine it's just because it's always busy. So I imagine they just always keep those stages booked.
I bet it's such a prestigious place to do a show. That was where I was going to go with this thought, that if you can get booked in there even on 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning, you're going to go and you're going to sing your set.
You're going to play the Cavern Club. If they ask me, do you want to do a couple of numbers, Kev? Yeah. Whatever, yeah. Where's my ukulele? I'll get up on stage. It's the Cavern Club.
I did say at the time, get it out. We'll go up there. I'll sing, you play, and we'll be sorted. But there were so many famous bands who played there early days, and pictures
Queen.
of them. Yeah,
Queen were there. Queen played there. But there was just loads of memorabilia from different bands who've played there. It was just very, very cool. Much bigger than I expected it to be. It was like another Beatles museum. Just underground.
I'd love to have a club like that
with a bar in it where Sheepdog managed to drink his local beer that he always has to do on these trips.
Which was very nice.
I had a local Diet Coke, which I always like to do as well. There was another gift shop down there. I've actually cleared my desk, so I don't have my Cavern Club mug to show you, but I've got a Cavern Club mug. I bought so much Beatles tat on this weekend. I love it. But yeah, it was just... We basically went from 9 a.m. getting to the Beatles Story through till getting on for 3 p.m. when we left the Cavern Club, of just like a 5 or 6 hour period of just Beatles stuff. And I loved the Beatles as a kid. When we were in the shop in the Beatles Story, I was looking for, they had all the CDs in there. I was like, I think I had all of these at one point or another. When I was a teenager, I just went absolutely balls deep on the Beatles and just learn everything.
It was nice hearing you, to be fair, because that showed why we were in there. Because like I've obviously known Kev a long time, but he was talking. He'd be like, "Oh, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds comes on." You're like, "Oh, if this song didn't exist, it wouldn't be my daughter's name." And you were talking through, just giving me all these little snippets. And I'm like, "Wow, okay." Like I did know you liked them because we've listened to them in the past at your house or whatever. But it was just like, okay, this is a big part of Kev's sort of past music, and yeah, it was just interesting interesting hearing you were actually just reminiscing about things as you wandered around, and it was like, oh, okay, this is cool. We should have had the camera on all of that. It could have had like a tour, piece it together, Kev just reminiscing about stuff. But yeah, it was just
Old
nice
man talks about past. What a video that would be.
Well, no, just for you, it'd be good. But no,
I did try and find some. They had loads of T-shirts with different song names on, and I wanted a good Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds one to give to my daughter Lucy, because she knows that's why that's her name. It's the kind of the one Beatles song that she was aware of from when she was very small, because she knew that was where her name came from. But they didn't really have anything. They didn't have any Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds memorabilia, merch, or anything at all. So she got nothing.
She deserved
strange,
nothing.
Though. I thought they'd had that much available, but yeah.
Exactly. They should have known I was coming. And then once we were done with all the Beatles stuff, which was fantastic, I mean, not getting too ahead of myself, and we don't officially decide the best thing from a place these days. We let you decide in the comments. But I mean, it was absolutely the highlight of the weekend for me, the Beatles stuff. Loved every minute of it. But we used a lot of our Sunday on it. We probably spent more time doing this than I anticipated that we would. So we actually had to bin off the whole Baltic quarter, the Baltic market where we were supposed to go for lunch. I mean, we weren't ready. We weren't done with the Beatles stuff until mid-afternoon. So we just grabbed a Pret sandwich really quickly. We did actually drive out to where the Baltic market was and couldn't get parked.
Yeah,
we then came back and parked up somewhere else. And then it was like probably 3:30. And we still hadn't been to the cathedral, which is, I did actually look it up. I fact checked this. It is the 5th biggest cathedral in the world. It is bigger than all the other ones we've been to as part of these trips.
Claims like that, what, the second biggest Chinese
yeah, we went to Chinatown. The second biggest arch outside of China in their Chinatown. So we walked through Chinatown to get to the cathedral. They were both massive. And,
I don't know how people... I need to understand why someone's building a Chinese arch that big in Liverpool.
Because a load of Chinese people came to live there and then wanted to build something Chinese.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is, like, why does that happen in places?
That feeling of home.
Yeah.
Why do you, if you moved to another country and lived in a community of loads of other people who were English, you'd probably have some English stuff there.
I might build a big
Have you ever been to Benidorm, sheepdog?
Well, no, don't get me wrong, by the way. You're making this sound like I'm criticising it. I'm just trying to get my head around, like, so for example, London doesn't have the biggest one or the second biggest one, but they have a very big Chinese population. I was just like,
I think it's more a case because we went to London not long after this trip. Like a week later, we were in London and walked past the arch in Chinatown in London as well. And we're like, yeah, okay, that is much smaller. But I think in London, it's because they had to fit it between buildings that were already there.
Yeah, maybe.
And it was kind of crammed in and fitted in where it could be. Whereas in Liverpool, it was just, let's plonk this down and then we'll build this area up around it.
It was cool. I was impressed. I just wouldn't have expected to see it. That was more my point. It wasn't a complaint or a criticism. It was more of
certainly not something I knew about Liverpool going in, that they had a massive Chinatown.
I was just like, wow, okay. And it could be to do with the amount of, the industry that was there in the old days and that. They talked a lot about their industry.
It's a lot of to do with the fact that the docks were there, I imagine.
Yeah.
That's why they've got a large Irish community. I imagine there's lots of these little communities of people who've just turned up on the boat because that's where the boat docked.
Makes sense.
But then, we made it to the cathedral, which was massive. You don't get a lot of cathedrals that have an elevator inside them, but this one did. Gift shop didn't have any models of the cathedral for me to bring home for Andy. We had to get a cardboard model version of it, which is the best we could do. So he's now got his cardboard version of Liverpool Cathedral next to his 2 Barcelona cathedrals, his Battersea power station model that we got. There's a lot of stuff that is accumulating on top of his TV now.
You're building him a little city. Visit that city.
What I'm doing, and Anna pointed this out to me, and it is a terrible mistake on my part, I'm building him a list of places he now wants me to take him to. So
just let him watch the channel. He'll watch all of our videos to death, and then
we'll really have to take him. So everywhere we go for Best Thing From, a year later, we're gonna have to go again and take Andy around and show him all the cathedrals and elevators.
Repeating the adverts over and over again on the videos.
I mean that lift we went in Turin, the cathedral in Barcelona. I mean all these things are things that I'm absolutely gonna have to take him to go and do all this stuff. We keep going to places that he would love, and he would love this cathedral because it was huge.
It was massive.
Absolutely. And there are 2 there, and we only went to one of them because there was one that was really big and massive, and the other one modern and less interesting. I don't even remember which flavour each one was.
No, I can't now. I think, didn't they say there was a big scandal back in the day because a Catholic had built the Protestant one and a Protestant had built the Catholic one or something?
Yeah, something like that.
I feel like we went here because we parked near that Baltic market. Well, we tried to park near it, couldn't park near it. So we drove to a car park, said, no, we're not walking all the way there. So then we walked much further to the cathedral, and we were knackered by the time we got back. And then you had to do a 4-hour drive home or whatever it was. It was
all uphill.
Very surreal. Yeah, uphill. And I remember going to the cathedral just thinking, I am more broken than I was the day before.
They had lots of electric scooters scattered around the city, like they do in most major cities. And the first time I nearly got one was on the way back from the football, because they were similar to what we found whenever we've gone to a big city, Barcelona, wherever it might be, Spurs, getting away from a football match. You cannot get public transport. You cannot get taxis. They stop the buses after the football in Liverpool. They don't put extra ones on. They stop them to stop the football fans getting on them. Taxis won't go near there. So I had to walk like a mile away from the ground to get to the point where I could get an Uber. But they had all of these electric scooters, and I went through I got the app downloaded, got registered for it and everything, and then I had to upload my driving license and have someone sign it off. It didn't get signed off until like Tuesday.
God,
so
at least when you go back, you'll be scooting.
I would have wanted to use one then, and absolutely to get from this car park to the cathedral, I would have scooted again. But yeah, it's all well and good having the scooters there, but for a place that has such a large amount of tourism, which again I didn't realise that about Liverpool. It was a very touristy place.
Yeah, it was heaving with tourists.
You've got to make the scooters snappier. I need to just be able to use them. When I went to Tenerife, it's like that. That's what I want. I want it like that.
You say about
Give me
tourism.
My scooter.
I don't know if I mentioned this at the time. I suddenly realised, possibly midway through the Sunday, I can't remember when exactly, that I'd been there before. I was like, I've been to Liverpool actually. Something really random. I think I passed a pub that said something like, this pub has 6 rooms that play different music in each room, and I was like, I've been there. I've been to this whole I come here for my mate's stag. And I suddenly knew where I was all of a sudden. And it was like, yeah, it was sort of 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the Sunday, and I was like, "Oh my god, I completely forgot I'd been here." But yeah, that was interesting to suddenly have that whole thing flash back to me all of a sudden. But no, Liverpool's great. I'd recommend everyone going there.
Yeah, we talked about this in the car on the way home. It was a genuinely awesome city. I don't know why it gets the reputation that it's got. It was a lovely city, friendly people.
Yeah, definitely
so much stuff to do there.
Positive.
As a place to go for a city break, certainly within the UK, I think the only city that has topped it that I've been to is London. I would have put this as somewhere to just go and enjoy a weekend. This tops Manchester and Birmingham and Leeds and Sheffield and wherever. It's an awesome city. I don't understand. I mean, before you all come at me, people in Newcastle, not been there, might be great. I hear it's quite good. But
I think there's places in Scotland that are meant to be amazing as well.
I've never been north of Leeds.
York, maybe. It's meant to be good.
Never heard of it. But yeah, it was really, really cool. Absolutely awesome time. I can't believe we've got to follow this up with Cambridge and Milton Keynes, to be honest. What is happening? There is
that was your alarm.
Under attack. What's going on?
Whose alarm was that?
That was you, wasn't it? It sounded like it came from you. You said the word Cambridge, and it was
Definitely sounded like you.
Yeah, that was probably that's my iPad telling me it's time to go to bed. Stop looking at the internet. That's how late we're recording this. But yeah, as I've lost my train of thought now, as we have the last couple of these episodes, we're not actually going to decide ourselves what the best thing from Liverpool is. I've got a very good idea of what I think it was. I think you can probably work that out for yourselves. But I want you to use the comments section to let me know what you think the best thing from Liverpool is, either based on what you've seen across the videos. We've got the main video, we've got the podcast video, or if you've been there yourself and you found something even better, let us know what it is. We might go around and do a second lap at some point if there's some really, really cool stuff. And then that brings us to what comes next. We've got a double header recording weekend where we're going to do 2 cities in one weekend because they're rubbish cities. No, their football teams are rubbish. Cambridge is a lovely city. Shame about the football team. Milton Keynes exists. Yeah, so we're going to be doing those 2.
The rich history of Milton Keynes. Like, God, we can just look at all
committed to doing every city, and Milton Keynes got city status. There's nothing we can do about it.
It'll be a solid quarter of an hour.
Exactly. Let us know down in the comments section what we should be looking out for in Cambridge and Milton Keynes. They'll be the best thing throms that come out in July and August. We're going to be recording them in the near future. We're actually going to be doing things a little bit differently as well. There's going to be more content. There's going to be a best thing from Cambridge week on the channel that's coming up in July, and a best thing from Milton Keynes week in August. And you're still going to get the podcast. You're still going to get the main best thing from video, but you're going to get a few other little videos in there as well, similar to what we've done with like the Beatles Story video this time. But because we didn't plan to do it in advance, we haven't been able to pull quite as much out. But I think it's going to be quite a cool way of doing it.
You had the idea while we were doing some of the stuff. You were like, this would make a good video on its own. It's like, no, you're right.
Exactly. So basically what we're going to do is when we go to Cambridge, we're going to do like 3 or 4 standalone videos of the main things that we do, then an overall video showing you the normal best thing from stuff, and then we'll sit down and do the podcast as well. So you get a full week of content. You can dip in and out of it as you want, and hopefully it'll be cool. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I think that wraps things up for this one. We said an hour. We've gone a little bit over. Yeah. Got to give Topher the opportunity to edit all this together now. So I've been told I've got to go to bed by my iPad, and who am I to argue? So
yeah, I think Topher needs to sleep as well.
So
he's got work to do. He's got videos due. No sleep honestly, for you, Topher.
I'm sorry. I'm
that's
so
right, mate. We're basically reading a bedtime story here. Bless him. He's very tired.
Oh God! No, I've got 3 videos to do in the next 72 hours. So
work harder. So yeah, if you want to keep up to date with these things as they're happening, the best place to do that is via our Twitters, where you can find me at Lelujo,
and I'm at RB6K,
and I'm at It's Editor Chris. I think. Probably.
Exactly.
Yes.
And we'll be back in another month or so with best thing from Cambridge and all the other content that comes with it. But for now, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you have enjoyed the new fancy video version of what we're doing. If you have listened to this, go find it on YouTube. Have a little look. Chris has put loads of lovely stuff over the top of just us talking. It's not just us talking.
Yeah.
You get to see a little bit of what we're talking about while it's happening as well. So that's quite cool. But thanks for watching. Toodle pip. Bye-bye.
Bye.